This podcast contains gambling references. You know the score. Stay in control. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858 or your local state gambling helpline.
9 podcasts.
This is Six Tackles with Gus, with Matthew Thompson and Gus Gould.
Hello, welcome to Six Tackles with Gus for this week. Favourite time of the week, favourite time of the year. It's getting nice and sunny and warm outside. On the show today, a week to go, and we are starting the ascent towards the peak of Everest from base camp, as Gus likes to say. Rugby League has apparently drawn a line in the sand when it comes to foul play, but is it working? And what does Gus know about Gus? Sounds like a Seinfeld episode. Six Tackle Trivia, all about the career of the great Gus Gould. Middo's gone into the record books.
Middo would know more than I have, Matthew.
It'll be fun.
Middo would remember more than I can tell you. I can't remember where I put my car keys.
Yeah, but you are very good at remembering things that happened 30 and 40 years ago. Isn't that funny? You can remember rugby league, all sorts of obscure rugby league stats, but if you're asked something basic about yesterday, you can't remember it. I'm like that.
I can go to the pub, have 12 beers, wake up the next morning, not remember a thing. My wife has half a glass of wine. She can bring up stuff I did 30 years ago. So
Yeah.
that's just how it works.
It's got nothing to do with the alcohol. We're going to be very well. So we've bought each other a coffee this morning. So Gus bought a coffee in for me. I bought one for him. So by the end of this podcast, we could be rocking and rolling.
I need a coffee. I'm working on no sleep, if you want a Seinfeld episode.
Yeah.
No sleep.
Oh, dear. So, to rest or not to rest. Now, you're a resting man. If you earn the right to rest in the last round, you reckon it's the way to go. And the Panthers, well, they're going to rest pretty much their whole team. But we see some exciting youngsters. Now, you could tell us a bit more about them. I've seen that Thomas Jenkins in the centres. He can go. He goes good.
Yeah, they were all very young when I left Penrith, but I can remember Jimmy Jones speaking very highly of all those boys that have come into the side. Thomas Jenkins, I think, came from Burrawa.
Right.
You might have seen him playing with young cherry pickers down there.
Mm-hmm.
Big, rangy outside back, centre or winger, and he's come through the grades, and he's been very impressive in all his football through the lower grades and in the New South Wales Cup, and he's deserving of his chance. He's only got representative class players keeping him out of first grade. He probably plays first grade with any other club at the moment. So no, they're good boys. They're good boys.
You surprised Luai's not playing?
No, not at all. I'm at this time of year, the players are match fit. It's now just keeping them healthy for your biggest day and making sure that they're ready to go. And they've been down this road for a few years now. And any time you can get the opportunity to have a break at this time of year, that's why making the top four is important and winning that first round is important to get another break after that. So I'm a big fan of resting players, and they've got the luxury to do so they should take that luxury and get it done.
Yeah. So we've got one round until the finals, but there's still a little bit to be decided in terms of who finishes where, and particularly tomorrow night, the first game on 9, round 25, Parramatta versus Melbourne is a clash for the top 4. Now, if Para win tomorrow, I've just had a look at it, and I've confirmed this with Middo. Para wins, they finish 4th, which means Melbourne on 4 and against they'd need the Roosters to smash Souths, like at 60 points or something in differential. So Melbourne will essentially lock up 5th.
Yep.
Which means the Roosters and Souths will be playing each other in week 1 of the finals as well.
I think they're both well aware of that.
So how do you think they're approaching that one? What, first game at Allianz, big occasion, knowing that they're probably going to play each other in an elimination final the week after. That's an interesting little situation for both clubs.
Yeah, it is, but they'll know their fate after the Eels play the Storm, because they play first up, don't they?
So if Para win, do you reckon will they go 100% at each other, or will they keep something in the locker?
I think it might mean some late team changes.
Yeah.
I would expect that to happen, but right at the moment they're not thinking about that. The coach will have it in the back of his mind what his strategy might be if that's the case. If Storm win, then it's a different scenario, I guess. I guess whoever finishes 4th and 5th, the 5th place getter is likely to play Canberra Raiders. And the winner of this game is likely to play Panthers. So fourth place first. So it's for much and much, it's whether or not you'd rather go back and play Canberra Raiders with no chance of a week off and then play losing teams as they come off their losses to get to the grand final, or take on the Panthers straight away after they've rested their players and maybe catch them on the hop early. Panthers lost their first semi-final last year, remember? It's not easy to win that first one, and then Parramatta or Storm would get the second week off and straight into the preliminary final. So
I reckon I know who Para want to play. They want Penrith.
Well, yeah, I don't think either side is scared of playing Penrith, and I think that's the way to go. You want to play for that right to get into the preliminary final and keep advancing your cause. I don't think anyone goes to September planning to lose a semi-final. I know the Premiers did it last year, but it's very rare that someone loses through September and then goes on to win the comp. You want to go there planning to win all your games and 1, 2, 3 and carry the shield. That's the way you should be thinking. But, all the coaches here are pretty experienced,
of course,
and they'll know this journey well, and they'll also know how their team is injury-wise. And, Roosters have made a long run, and they've got a long run to go if they want to play on the big day. So, Trent Robinson will have a couple of strategies up at the back of his mind. He won't be saying that to the players this week. As far as the players are concerned, they're playing South at Allianz, the opening of Allianz to their home ground, and they'll be looking to go out and give it to them. It's as simple as that. I can't see South and Roosters giving each other an edge.
It's a curious one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
We've been talking or debated, I suppose, the merits of Parramatta right throughout this season, given their up and down campaign. And at one stage, I think we sat here a few weeks ago saying it's not even a foregone conclusion they make the finals. If they win tomorrow and finish in the 4, where do they rate in relation to Penrith dangers?
Look, they're capable of beating Penrith. We've seen that twice this year. But there were mitigating circumstances, I think, in the second game with the dismissal of Cleary. Was that the game where he was dismissed? Yep. And they played against 12 men, and I thought Penrith, with 12 men in the second half, actually competed very, very strongly. And I said after that game, well, at full strength, Parramatta cannot beat Panthers again. And that's the way I feel about it. I don't see Penrith losing again for the rest of the year. So that's just my view. But they're in there with a chance, and they've beaten them twice, and they are a team that does trouble them. So it's no doubt about that. It's a very intriguing final series.
Oh, really?
It's going to be great football. We've had to put up with so much rubbish football during the year. The bottom 6 or 8 teams have really struggled, and they can put in some really poor performances. They just can't match it with the top sides for most of the time. And when they play each other, you can see when the bottom teams play each other and when the top teams play each other. That's when you see the real gap. It's not just when the top team plays the bottom team. It's when you see 2 great teams play against each other, like that Storm Roosters game the other night, and then the Cowboys South Sydney game the other night.
Yep.
And then you go and watch 2 lower grade sides, 2 of the lower teams play against each other. It's like they're from a different planet. The lower teams would not survive in those sorts of games at the moment. They would not have survived in a Storm versus Roosters game. There's no one out of the bottom 8 that could have survived in that game. The way the players threw themselves at each other, the intensity and the type of football that was played, and that's the gap in the competition. You really see it then. So we're going to have a great month of football. It's going to be a wonderful month of football. All these games will be really intriguing, and they'll be hard fought. And other than Panthers, who I think are a cut above the other 7, the rest, anything can happen. Anything can happen with the rest.
Yeah.
They really can.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating final series. Just on that game, which we called Melbourne and the Roosters, ferocious battle. Absolutely ferocious. But one of the talking points...
Wasn't it good?
I loved it. Loved it.
Wasn't it great?
The big man just ripping into each other.
Wasn't it great?
Loved it.
Not just good. It was great. That's how the game is supposed to be played. That's how professional footballers attack each other.
Dale Finucane has come out in the press today. He was asked, obviously, at a media all-in about the fine or the role of the fine as a deterrent against foul play. He says he doesn't think it works. Now, in the case of repeat offenders, maybe he's right, because Big Nelson, he's been fined 5 times this year for foul play, but not suspended. Now, I put this to you. Is that Is that because the fine's not a deterrent, or is that because the match review committee didn't suspend him when he nearly broke Wade Egan's jaw?
Matthew, this is all posturing. This is all political posturing.
Okay.
Fines, this match. It's all political posturing. All right, so that the game can say to the fans and the media, we've done our bit, and without trying to affect the game. We suspend, we charge far too many players. The suspensions are too harsh. The fines are too harsh. It's all ridiculous. The fines, some of the things they get fined for are just ridiculous. They're not even penalties in games. But it's the officialdom acting out what they think their job is, and so no one can criticise us. And the Cohen Hess, the Finucane one itself was one of the most disgraceful decisions I've ever seen by any judiciary in any sport anywhere. And then to follow that up with the Cohen Hess one is, to me, it's an embarrassment to our game. It's a disgrace. But this is the political correctness that our game now is. I don't know what they want the game to look like. I really don't. I don't know what the game. I still don't know why Gerard Hargreaves was sent from the field the other night. I still don't know why. I don't know why Cohen Hess was sent from the field, let alone charged and then having to miss games. I just don't understand that whatsoever.
Well, the game you're talking about, the Melbourne Roosters game, I think we all understand that the game has evolved and we're in a different era, and I think everyone can accept that. But that game was not nothing that happened in that game is a deterrent to anyone who's thinking about coming through and playing the game, is it? I mean, even you talk about little Johnny and his mum.
I've told you this.
That's not a what happened the other night doesn't deter anyone, does it?
It inspires people, mate. I've told you this before. The people that they're trying to appease, a lot of them don't even love our game. They're more worried about their opinions than anyone else. But the people that they're trying to appease or protect aren't going to play our game anyway. Not at this level. This level isn't for everyone. Trust me. They're a very special breed of competitor and talent, an athlete that plays at this level, right? And you can have, what we saw in Origin, or you can have this battle where big men are going at each other, and referees are panicking, and judiciaries are panicking, and bunkers panicking, and we've got to suspend this bloke, and everyone's worried about everything. But I'm telling you, there is a 10-year-old kid sitting on the lounge room floor looking at it saying, I want to be there. That's where I want to be. That's what I want to do. And it's not for everyone. It shouldn't be for everyone. We're trying to make a game that's for everyone to play NRL. It shouldn't be. There are recreational forms of the game, touch and tag and junior league and social football and park football and junior league football. There are all sorts of grades to accommodate all sorts of passions for the game. But when you get to this NRL level, let me tell you, the number of kids that sacrifice so much and work so hard and bust their backsides to play NRL and never do.
Yeah, of course.
Never do. They just can't get there. I can't tell you how strong and how tough and how resilient and how, it's part of their makeup, the NRL footballer. And the top 5% of our 95% of our NRL players are average NRL players. They're great footballers, but they're average NRL players. Then you've got this other 5% who are just staggeringly elite. And even the other players recognise that. They're the greats of our game, and we've got them through every era. But the rest of them they're in there to compete and survive and prove themselves and be proud of themselves with their performance. And part of that is the physicality of it and contending with it, contending with the fear, the anxiety, contending with the intimidation. And, it's all been a part of our game for a long, until you get this body of people who think they're going to save the world or save everyone because, we'll stop all that and we'll turn it into a glorified, I don't know what they want the game to look like. And the suspensions and the fines and the things that we hand out are wrong. And all that's gone to speed of the play of the ball, ruck control, tackle techniques and wrestling coaches and all the rest of it. There are things in our game that should have been eradicated a long time ago that are dangerous and don't get enough attention. And then we worry because there's a big collision. Every time there's a big collision now, everyone stops because the referee can't wait to get the whistle to his mouth.
Well, we're all scared calling the game.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and people will say that I'm a dinosaur and I'm from a bygone era that doesn't exist. The stuff that happened back in our day was violent and it was vicious and it was, all that's gone, all right? But you cannot avoid some of the physical confrontations in our game, and you can't avoid injury. You can't avoid head clashes. You can't avoid contact with the head. You can't play a game without someone being contacted in the head. It doesn't mean it's illegal. It doesn't mean it's intentional. It doesn't even mean it's hurt most of the time. This is frustrating for me. It's not about going back to the old days. The old days was different. It was violent and it was vicious and they were out to hurt you. In today's game, they're just big, strong, strapping athletes who train 6 days a week, and this is what they train to do. And we're holding them all back. We're petrified of what the media might say or what.
Well, we didn't hold them back the other night.
Or what
down in Melbourne. We didn't hold them back in Melbourne the other night.
No, but why do we send Rhea Hargreaves off?
Well, I don't know. No, I understand that. I guess.
And then on the other side of that, to accommodate with the rules and to accommodate with what the game thinks a tackling style does, the young boy from the Roosters knocks himself out because he's trying to keep his tackles down and avoid contact with, his
Radley.
shoulders. Victor Radley knocks
he
himself.
normally tackles him around the head.
Yeah, well, but he tackles the ball. He tackles chest high. And if you tackle the ball and tackle chest high, which is the safest for both, it's the safest for the man being tackled and the man making the tackle. Every now and then it will slip up. Secondary contact, it might hit your ball or it might hit your chest there, and then secondary contact is a nudge with the chin. This doesn't hurt. That doesn't hurt. Direct contact with the head might hurt at times, but this doesn't hurt. This secondary action where it comes off the shoulder. But the players are taught to stand down. The players are taught to milk the penalty and milk the sin bin and that's a terrible look for our game. I don't start. Why'd you start on this?
I didn't mean to.
It drives me mad.
Well, I didn't notice.
And it drives me mad that people think, oh, you want it like the old days. No, I don't.
No, we don't.
We cleaned all that up. But, to have Dale Finucane and to have Cohen Hess suspended is an embarrassment to our game. To have Rhea Hargreaves sent off the other night is an embarrassment to our game. It really is.
I suppose what
we have with players staying down for crushes and staying down for any contact with it, even a brush across the ear or anything like that is embarrassing to them, and it's embarrassing to our code. These are professional footballers. It should come with a warning. Do not try this at home. It's up to the coaches and the parents to control what kids do in the park and what they copy from the stars. They're not out to maim each other, but they're out to compete. It is a competition. Winning counts. This is professional football. It's professional football. And if you want to take it 100 years into the future, it's why the NFL wear helmets.
Well, actually, we had an AskGus question asking why, if everyone's so concerned, why don't we mandate headgear?
Yeah, well, the normal headgear is it doesn't help concussion, right? The normal headgear doesn't. It just doesn't. That's been proven.
Well, the helmets don't help in the NFL because don't they just whack each other in the head?
Well, no. The problem
do they attack with the head?
The problem with the NFL was exactly that. They used their helmets as a weapon. They were actually coached to use their helmets as a weapon. It wasn't there for protection.
Yeah.
Well, it was under the guise of protection, but they actually used their heads. Their tackling techniques are disgraceful. You watch how they try to stop people because everything's about, inches in that game. They've got to stop them on that blade of grass. We don't have to. We just have to catch them and put them down. But and the methods by which we do that these days is terrible. Look at those, hip drop tackles and third man in tackles and all those types of things. And, players spinning around now because they don't want to get caught with that. So then they're subject to crusher tackles. And when the game gets close, and what do? They lay down and hold their neck. And then the referee's the bunker's compelled to give away a penalty. A slap in the face, well, it's not really a hit in the head, but technically we're right. So let's penalise that. It just opens up the game to ridiculous stuff. I don't know what the game to look like. If they actually sat down and said, "What's your finished product look like?" You're trying to say that no one gets hurt, no one gets hit in the head, that every hit in the head is going to cause someone grief when they're later in life, when it's just not the case. It is not the case.
Sorry for starting it.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks for your coffee. Speaking of NFL, totally random. Have you watched that documentary about the kid, Manti Te'o, the girlfriend?
Yes, I have.
Exist?
Yeah, I have.
I watched it last night.
Yeah.
What about that?
Yeah.
The catfishing thing.
Yeah.
I can't believe people do that.
Yeah. I can't believe he went for 3 years.
I can't believe he went for 3 years and hadn't met her.
Hadn't met her. And thought he had a girlfriend.
What's doing there? Do people actually have relationships for 3 years online and don't meet them? Mind you, it was a pretty elaborate hoax.
Well, yeah, but crikey, yeah, it left me with more questions than answers. I'll tell you.
Well, it's a pretty big yarn.
Well, it's
What
a
about it?
massive yarn. It's a massive story, and I guess this goes on in real life in other areas too. And online fraud and online, all sorts of things, that are happening over the internet, and people are very gullible, particularly elderly people and lonely people and single people.
He was gullible.
He was a footballer,
I know.
and he was.
He could have any chick he wanted.
So you can't say that, Matthew.
Why?
But certainly he would have been popular with the girls. But here he's got this romance over the last 3 years with a girl online that he's never met.
It turned out to be a bloke.
Yeah, well, that's.
Anyway, I think it's a rival streaming service, Stan. But you should, if you're interested in that, if you haven't watched it, you should. I was breathtaking. All right, Ask Us from Jesse Godfrey, who I think is despairing. Another year of no finals for the Dragons. What steps do they need to take to go better next year?
Well, this year, I always rated the Dragons team. I think they got some really good individual talents there, and I think on their day they produced good football. But this year, more than any other year, was a year that they should have made the 8. They were a top 8 side. No risk in the world they were a top 8 side. I was just looking at their injured list the other night. They've got a few unavailable right at the moment, and I suppose you could use that as one sort of excuse. But I don't see an excuse for them this year. They had the football team and they had the talent to be making the top 8, and they haven't.
Halfback carried them.
Well, he did. He's been outstanding. But, there are certain things about their style of play and their defence which just don't add up in the modern era, and they've been found out. Tigers should have beaten them the other day. Tigers had them beaten and had no right to have them beaten. They had no right missing the 8 this year. That's on them. That's not on anything else. You can't blame COVID. You can't blame injuries. You can't blame suspensions. It was this one more than even the previous years, I think, and particularly the way the competition was. Dragons should have made the 8.
All right.
I'm with you.
Jake Mann. He's a Sharkies fan, obviously. Gee, they're travelling, aren't they? Will Kennedy was leading the comp in line break assists before he got injured. The closest behind him was Nico Hines. Where do you think Will rates in terms of the fullbacks in the comp, and what's his market value going forward?
Well, his market value is according to the team that's chasing him. Cronulla Sharks have actually got really good depth in that position. They've got young
Dykes.
Young Cade Dykes, who came through and made his debut this year, and I think is going to be an outstanding NRL player of the future. They've got the young Sevens boy from the Lockie Miller, who's 27 years of age, but made his debut this year, a stunning debut, scored 4 tries or something. I think he was terrific.
They got depth everywhere, the Sharkies.
They have, but they've been running a really good academy program for 8 or 10 years. They've been one of the clubs in Sydney that have really looked after it. They weren't getting a lot of transition. I think at the back end of his career, Shane Flanagan was buying a lot of older players, trying to win a premiership rather than bringing young fellas through. But in the last couple of years, they've certainly had younger fellas emerge, and Will Kennedy is one of them. Will Kennedy is the son of Bubba Kennedy.
Yep.
And I remember talking to Will as a 16, 17-year-old and saw his potential way back then. But we had plenty of young fullbacks at Panthers, and sort of encouraged him to stick it out at the Sharks because I thought he could play NRL there, and he's gone on to do that. He's a very talented young man. I remember talking to Paul Gallen. He said, we see so much brilliance at training that's yet to emerge in the NRL. A little bit introverted, as young blokes. They're a little bit... they've got to find their feet before they can start to do the things they want to do. But over the last couple of years, we've seen him do some brilliant things on the football field. And as the AskGus question says there, that he's had line break assists and line breaks right throughout his early part of the season. And he's a very, very good footballer.
When's he back?
I think he's nearly back now. I think
he
should be back very soon. He's certainly back for the finals. That'll be interesting to see how they play that. I think that he would go straight back in once he's fit and ready to play.
No, he's not in this week. Miller stays there at fullback.
Yeah.
See, even Ikevalu, he hasn't played much this year. I mean, he was a signing from the Roosters, and he's been really just a senior player backup.
Yeah. And over the last couple of years, because of COVID, because there's been no lower grade football, there's been no state cup football or junior reps. A lot of these players if they weren't in the top 17 each week playing football, they weren't getting any football whatsoever. They were just getting their training. So we haven't seen as many young fellas sort of emerge out of the last couple of years as we would normally have available. I think get another off-season under their belt this year and then another season next year. I think by 2024 we'll see a lot of young talent starting to emerge into the NRL, which will be good because we'll have an extra team next year. So we need to replenish and we need to build up towards an 18th team down the track. But Sharks have got great depth in a number of positions. Their Harold Matthews, fullback this year, was nearly Player of the Year in that division as well. He's gone off to the Canberra Raiders, so they lost him because he didn't have a pathway in front of him. He just couldn't see where he'd get his NRL opportunity. A kid called Chevy Stewart, who's probably one of the best young goal kickers I've seen, but extremely fast Tedesco-like player playing in the Harold Matthews. And they had Cade Dykes and Lockie Miller and, of course, Will Kennedy. So they're very well served in that position. Ikavalu, he would play first grade in most sides, but, they've got Mulatalo and those fellas over there that are doing a great job. They're a strong side.
You say, is his name Chevy?
Eh?
Chevy.
Chevy Stewart. I've never known Chevy.
It'd be great when he chips and chases. You could say Chevy Chase.
That's the commentator coming out in you.
Hey?
That's the commentator.
I've already got that
out.
one.
Yeah.
Robin Suang's obviously a Broncos fan. I think the question's basically what the bloody hell's happened to Brisbane. But they've just run out of gas, haven't they?
Yeah. Look, I can theorise. I don't know, unless you're in the camp and feeling the way it's going up there, but they just look pretty divided and isolated at the moment. When I say divided, not in a bad way, I just think that it's all got a bit too hard for them, and their mindset is back where it was 2 years ago when defensively they just couldn't cope. I reckon early in the year, if I tried to theorise about it, earlier in the year where, they came into this competition, I think, with a real defensive mindset and just relied upon Adam Reynolds to provide the extra direction in attack to release these young athletes. And I think for the first half of the competition, that's what happened. They gained more and more confidence. But their mindset was around resilience in defence, improving the very poor defensive record they've had over the last couple of years. And for the major part, they did. They're very athletic, and they did a good job. But as the plaudits came along and as they started to rise the ladder, what I found was their whole mentality turned towards the brilliance of their attacking game, and defence took a second seat to it. So where they started the year with this, prove ourselves, backs against the wall, climb the ladder, the past is behind us type, and built their game around their defensive mindset and their defensive technique, which improved a lot on what it was in previous years. I think that was why they were playing well and why they were getting themselves into winning positions. And then Adam Reynolds was providing the direction for these athletes to score tries and do great things. But as the plaudits come in and they get more and more raps and they find themselves in the top four and, hey, well, the gang's all here, we're back again and we're going to do this and play finals football, I just feel as though they don't like playing without the ball. They're only interested when they're playing with the ball. And that's eaten away at the most important and the hardest part of the game. And their defence over the last couple of weeks has just looked like it did 2 years ago, where it's paper thin and it's poorly organised and they're coming off the line in the wrong direction. They're not communicating. They're not talking. A lot of the errors that they're making with their defensive reads can only be that they're not united in what they're trying to do. They get isolated. They look at the scoreboard. They say, here we go again. And that's exactly what happens. Here we go again. So I don't know how he's going to pull that around in a week to beat the Dragons this week. I would like to see them do it because they deserve a win before the end of the season. And I think their top 8 credentials are now beyond them. That last weekend was just devastating to be beaten by that score and then see Canberra win by that score to turn around that 40-odd point for and against differential was incredible weekend. Now the Raiders need to beat the Tigers, and that's no gimme. They're going to have to concentrate to do that. But the Broncos, the way they're defending at the moment, I don't think they can beat anyone. They're back where they were. So they need a whole off-season again of, mindset and resilience and concentration on the hardest parts of the game, which are your defence, and getting into the grind and getting into the cycle with top sides and breaking the spirit of the opposition and understanding they've got athleticism, they've got talent with the ball, but that's not the be-all and end-all. I just think they've lost that defensive mindset they started. I might be 1,000,000% wrong.
No, well, the collapse has coincided with Patrick Carrigan being suspended for 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's coincidence. He's a very good player, don't get me wrong, and he does provide a lot of the grunt up front. But a lot of the things that he does in the game can be replaced by some of the forwards that they've got. I think that's coincidental. Not that I'm saying that he's not a great loss. He is, but you should be able to accommodate, and certainly they should be able to accommodate for a loss of a middle forward. Whose job is to hit the ball up and make tackles. Surely they can find another body to do that.
Yeah.
They've got a bloke there called Payne Haas who does 3 times what most middle forwards do in a game anyway, So I don't think that should have been the reason why their defensive mindset fell apart. I really don't.
You might learn a bit more about that this week because he's back from a 4-week suspension.
Well, I'm cheering for them. I hope they can finish the season with a win, just for their own mentality into the off season. It's important the Brisbane Broncos do well in our competition. At the start of the year, I can't remember. I have to roll the tape back for me what we predicted, but I sort of saw them somewhere between 6th or 7th and 10th or 11th. That's about where I saw them. That's where they're going to finish. And so I'm saying, well, all right, well, they've done what we sort of expected them to do. But the way the first half of the season went, where they charged into the top 4 and did all that, it's probably disappointing now that they've missed the 8.
Tell you what we did tip.
What?
Penrith Para Grand Final. Could
Did
be
we?
on the cards.
Did we?
And I said Nicho Hines would win the Dally M. I might be a genius.
Right.
I may not too. Now, coolest men in league results. I'll preface this part of our podcast by saying there are a number of comments saying the 2 uncoolest blokes in rugby league nominating the coolest man in the game. I think that is perfectly legitimate. But we're putting it out there for the public to vote.
Did they say we were uncool?
Very cool.
What
Very
do we
uncool.
What do we have to be cool?
I don't know. I thought we were pretty cool. They're probably talking about me. You're cool. But we were putting it out there for the punters to vote.
I lived in the days where cool was actually a word. I think cool's a word these days.
Oh, yes, it is.
No, it's not. I don't think kids say cool.
Oh, I've got another AskGus question about your cool young days. I'll come to that in a minute. So you narrowed it down to 6, all right?
Yep.
We split the 6 into 2 pools.
Yep.
Jerome Luai, Dom Young, Cam Murray.
Yep.
That was pool 1. Pool 2 was Nicho Hines, Harry Grant, and Josh Addo-Carr. Now, some shock results.
Yep.
Nicho Hines defeated Josh Addo-Carr by less than 4% of the vote.
Wow.
43.8 to 39.2, and Harry Grant, or Michael Bublé, finished with 17%. So Nicho Hines is through to the grand final. Now, in a shock outcome, Cam Murray, 50.7%.
But you know why, don't you?
Because he's gorgeous?
No, you don't. You don't understand media, do you?
What?
Right? Because South Sydney fans vote for their own people every week. The South Sydney fans are the most active people on polls and in media, whatever. It is, mate.
Yeah, right.
You write a column about South Sydney, it will be the most read column of the day. You ask team of the week. You go on the team of the week voting for the NRL.
South side.
It's a whole South side every week. A whole South side.
Well, so are you saying that when we put the next poll up, the grand final,
yeah,
Nicho Hines versus Cam Murray, are you saying he's $1.01?
Landslide. Landslide. You'll need everyone in the Shire to vote twice.
Oh, righto.
For Nicho Hines.
Okay.
To beat Cam Murray.
All right.
I've got Cam Murray at $1.10 now.
Okay. He's $1. I was going to put the market up at $1.65 Hines.
The South Sydney
$2.20 Murray.
The South Sydney supporters are relentless, mate.
Okay.
Relentless. I learned this years and years ago. You write a column about South, it'll be the most read column all week.
I wish you'd have told me.
Bulldogs were the other ones. That's why you had our cars polled really well. All right. Bulldogs, Eel, and South Sydney, their fan bases are relentless.
Well, you didn't put Dylan Brown in the grand final, or in the preliminary final. You reckon he might have challenged?
Well,
okay,
if you go Parramatta a vote.
It's Murray versus Hines.
Yeah,
Murray $1.10.
$1.10 Murray.
Okay. We'll put it up and see what happens.
Even though Nicho Hines is cooler.
He's cooler.
Yeah. But Cam Murray will win that in a landslide. South Sydney fans, do your thing.
Yeah. Okay. Before, on cool, where have I got it here? Willow, who is a perennial sports media lover, he rings us on the radio and he messages everyone. Ask Gus about the Harbour Cruise business he used to run in his younger days and the jukebox that got stuck on a certain song.
Yep. I've told that story, haven't I?
Not here.
I thought I did.
No, not here. We'll take a break, then we'll get Gus's story, and then we'll get the quiz all about Gus. So to prove how cool you are, you previously ran a business with jukeboxes on boats.
This is a long time ago. We were at school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we did a few after I left school, but me and my mate Warren McCall, you could hire a boat on Sydney Harbour for $370 a night, an old ferry. You could hire an old ferry, cost you $370. They'd pick you up at Circular Quay and drop you back there at midnight. And we used to sell, and it was $30 to hire a jukebox. Right, so all we do is provide the boat and the jukebox, and we charge everyone $5 a ticket. Bring your own drinks, and we sold tickets to everyone in school, and they'd all get the train into Circular Quay, and they'd all jump on the boat with their drinks, and they'd fall off the boat at midnight.
Gee, you're an entrepreneur way back.
So, and we'd have the juke, and they loved it. They absolutely loved it. $5, bring your own drinks.
How many got on the boat?
No food, no nothing. No, you had to,
no RSA.
No. There were 3 hot dog sellers at Circular Quay. Used to wait for our boat to come in, but So we'd sell 200 tickets at $5 each, was $1,000.
Jesus.
It'd cost us $300 for the boat, $370 for the boat, and $30 for a jukebox.
You're a genius.
So Warren and I'd take $300. I bought my first car out of it.
Wow.
I bought my first car out. So we did that. We did, I don't know, half a dozen times, I suppose. The kids at school loved it. And we ran another one after. I should have gone into it.
You should have gone. Well, you've done all right
That
with
should have
your
been,
career
that should have
anyway.
that should have been my life. I could have had 6 boats swanning around the harbour.
But you wouldn't have your own podcast.
No. Warren went into the police force.
So what happened with the jukebox? Got stuck?
So we had this cruise one night, and the second song, because Nutbush City Limits was a big song, because he sort of used to do the dance, you know. So about the second song, someone's put Nutbush City Limits on, and everyone's doing the dance and everything, and they're pushing all the buttons, but the only thing that would come on was Nutbush City Limits. So we had Nutbush City Limits from 7 p.m. to midnight. Was the only song on the boat. And every time I hear that song now, I think about that. I'm back on that boat.
Oh.
And it was just because everyone, they go and push all the buttons, and on come, yay, Nutbush City Limits. And it just went for 5 hours, never stopped. And every time I come out, they go, yay. And the drunker they got, the more they loved it.
Are you traumatised every time you hear that song?
And the funny part was, because we'd all pile off the boat, and then we go to nightclubs or wherever up the King's Cross and that after the thing. First bar we walked into, they were playing Nutbush City.
Stop it.
Nutbush City Limits.
That should be your ringtone on your phone.
True story.
Oh, that's too funny. Of all songs, Nutbush City Limits.
Nutbush City Limits.
Do you know the dance?
Eh?
Do you know the dance? Do you still remember it?
I didn't dance, mate.
Yeah, I bet you did back then.
I didn't dance.
All right.
I waited for the slow ones at the end of the night.
Yeah, just swoop late. A quiz for Gus about Gus. When and where and against whom did you score your first try in first grade?
Oh, crikey.
When and where and against whom did you score your first try in first grade?
Penrith Park, Manly, 1979. No.
Venue's right. Team's wrong. Year's wrong.
Magpies?
Yes.
Magpies in 1978.
Well done, Gus.
Yeah.
Round 14.
Okay.
Multiple choice. Who was your most constant teammate in first grade, i.e., who did you play most games alongside out of the following?
Ooh.
A. Steve Folkes.
Ooh.
B. Paul Merlot. C. Chris Mortimer. D. Andrew Farrer.
Wow. There's 3 Bulldogs in that. Folkes, Farrer, and Mortimer. And who was the other one?
Paul Merlot.
I played a fair bit with Paul Merlot. 78. I did me eye. I wouldn't have played enough with Paul. 83, 84, 85 with the Bulldogs. I reckon I played more with Steve Folkes.
The answer is D. Andrew Farrer, who you played alongside in 37 of your 109 games.
Wow. Okay.
How many field goals did you kick in first grade?
In first grade?
Yeah.
I'll say 2.
Well done. for the Panthers against Newtown Henson Park 79, the other for Canterbury versus St George at Cogra in 1983, and a side note, David Middleton, neither were in the first half.
No, neither.
Neither were in the
They were
first
at
half.
the pointy end of the game, mate.
Very good. Very, very good.
And I will say this. I think it was from 2 attempts. I don't think I attempted any more than that.
No, I didn't go into that.
Yeah.
Ah, very good. Let's preview the round. I'm very excited about the last 5 weeks of the comp. Really am.
We're going to see some great football. I've been looking forward to this all year. I've seen some rubbish during the year. I mean, my God.
Actually, let's start with NRLW.
And even when we're working, like, it's some of the games, your eyes start to glaze over.
Well, 72-6 was a hard one.
You've got to find well, that's when you earn your money.
Oh, no. I thought we did well.
You've got to find something to talk about.
Roosters, Dragons, Allianz. So, actually, the girls play before the blokes on Allianz.
Yep.
The girls get the honour of launching Allianz. Good on them.
Yep.
Roosters versus Dragons.
Yep.
9 gem, 5:40 kickoff on Friday. That's terrific. Good on you, girls. You'll absolutely love that. There are a couple of good footy teams there. And then we've got Saturday, Broncos versus Titans. So the Queensland battle live on 9 from Moreton Daly Stadium, Redcliffe. And then Sunday, you'll see Knights versus Eels. So there's the 3 games in the NRLW, which has been great entertainment for the opening couple of weeks. Thursday footy, Parramatta versus Melbourne for a place in the 4. If history's any guide, this is an early grand final for them, for their respective teams.
What, you think these two are playing the grand final?
No, I'm saying if history's any guide, it's a grand final because you can't win outside the 4.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
So team news, what have we got? I think it's all pretty much steady as she goes, yep. It's all pretty much as you'd expect.
Yep.
Para won the last 3 against Melbourne.
Yeah. I don't know that the last 2 weeks have been great preparation for Parramatta for a game like this. I think the Storm have had probably the harder, that game against the Roosters last week would have steeled them for what semi-final football looks like. Parramatta in their last couple of wins beat a very poor Bulldogs team and a very poor Brisbane Broncos team and won by big scores. Having said that, they won't be intimidated about going to down to Melbourne. They often ruffle their feathers down there.
Oh, they're at home.
Yeah. I think I'm going to say, it's a strong Melbourne side, isn't it? He's been terrific at fullback, Munster. I'm going to say Storm.
Storm to win. I can tell you, with our mates at Bluebet, and I think this was reflected across the board, there was a big plunge on Para. They opened them up, I think it was about $2.20, and they've been whacked.
Yeah, and I think that's what the bookie wanted them to do.
Ah.
Better watch the bookies. They're pretty smart.
They're sneaky, aren't they?
Read the market.
Gamble responsibly. Bulldog versus Sea Eagle at a core early Friday. Been a rough couple of weeks for both clubs, but I'll leave that one there. Now, this is the big one. Now, we launched this magnificent new stadium at Allianz. Have you had the chance to go out and have a look at it?
No, I haven't had a look at it yet.
Oh, it's brilliant.
I'll go out there as a spectator one day.
It'll be chockers on Friday night, and great privilege to be there and call the game between 2 arch rivals. Now, as we say, if Para wins, it looks like Roosters and Rabbitohs will play each other again in week 1 of the finals. If Melbourne win, then there's a possibility that the winner could sip to 5th place. So a lot of it's going to depend on what happens in the Thursday game. But a great rivalry nonetheless. I see Luke Keary's had a bit of a dip saying, I don't think anyone remembers that Joseph Suali'i was with South Sydney. And then South fit back saying, well, the surface is crappy. The NRL's got to go and have a look at it. Yeah. That's got something to do with the fact that they're not allowed to play the home games next season. It's on again. Yeah. It always is.
I tipped Roosters to beat Storm last week. I thought they were in good shape, and I was actually talking to a friend at the Roosters during the week. I said, how do you think you go? He said, no one can beat us at the moment. He said, I don't know how long that's going to last. He said, but right at the moment, no one can beat us, and they've showed that in the game. I was pretty confident they could go down and beat the Storm. They did. It was an epic battle. I think both sets of players really loved the fierceness of the contest.
What are your thoughts on the players out?
Yeah, but it's still a strong-looking team here. I'm going to tip Rooster. I expected Cowboys to beat South last week, but the Cowboys just came with the wrong game plan, the wrong mentality, and really fell into South Sydney's hands. But even then, when Kyle Phelps scored that try, they were back in the contest, and then they, sin bin, send off, it all fell away. They ended up with 11 men at the back end of the game, so their fate was sort of sealed. But I think right at the moment, and I can see what he was saying, right at the moment, Roosters are in grand final mode. And they've got to play all their grand finals every week. Every week's a grand final for them. They're in sudden death now, but right at the moment, he said they're not going to lose to anyone right at the moment. Whether they can carry that through to grand final week remains to be seen. But right at the moment, I tend to agree. I think the Roosters will beat South Sydney.
When you say you're in grand final mode, every game's a grand final. Can that be a good thing for you sometimes? Can you just get up? Get going, get on a run?
Yeah, history's shown with all that. In the NRL era, they've made it impossible to win from outside the top four. It's just, they just can't maintain that 4 weeks in a row. Although when you look at Panthers last year, who were clearly the best team in the competition, they spilled their lollies in week 1 of the finals against South Sydney, but that was the hard-nosed game that they needed. It steeled them for what happened after that. They then won by 2 points, 4 points, 2 points to win a competition. And Roosters are in that mode at the moment. They're actually playing, what I would call grand final type premiership deciding football. And whether they can do that 5 or 6 weeks in a row, I doubt. I doubt they're going to get to the grand final. I think there'll be a week where suspension and injuries and everything just gets the better of them. And they've got a couple to come back. If they can get through this game, they've got a couple to come back for the week 1 of the semi-finals. And obviously they're without Lindsay Collins for some time now, unless they make the grand final. So, but right at the moment, I think they're in that mentality. South Sydney still haven't convinced me that they're at that level just yet.
They've got a bit of issue out in the outside backs too with injuries, etc. Campbell Graham's out. Warriors are favourites to beat the Titans over in New Zealand. Well,
it's Warriors' last. It's the last game of the season, and you would think they play much better at home than they do away. Titans, good with the ball, bad without it.
Another 1 million point game, that one.
Yeah, it'll be something like 40-30. I will go with Warrior to win at home in front of their home crowd.
All right, now Carrigan's back for the Broncos as they travel to Cogra to play St George Illawarra. Now, the Broncos can still make the finals if they do a job on the Dragons and somehow the Tigers can eke out a win at Leichhardt over Canberra.
Yeah.
So they've got something to play for.
Yeah. Well,
unlikely.
They've got pride to play for.
Yeah.
Look, Tigers are going to be no pushover for Canberra. Trust me, it's going to be no pushover there. And we saw a couple of weeks ago when Raiders went up to Newcastle to play a team that was out of form. They found themselves down 22-8 at half time. They did really well to dig themselves out of the hole, but they did get themselves in a hole. And that's the Raiders for the last few years, isn't it? Just when you think it's safe to tip them, they'll find a way to put in a wobbly one. Now, they got a pretty easy last week against Manly and ran up a big score. And I think they're fresh and really looking forward to this finals campaign. But they've still got to go and beat the West Tigers. Anyway, we're not doing that game. I think we'll see an improved performance from the Broncos, but on exposed form and recent form, I would expect Dragons to win. Mind you, the Dragons find a way to get themselves in a hole too.
Tyson Gamble's in. Ezra Mam's gone out.
Yeah, well, they're probably looking for a little bit of, mongrel in their game.
Yep.
A little bit of strength of character. And, Ezra Mann's a great young talent, but maybe they're not getting the respect from the opposition they need at the moment. So he's been sent back for a bit of a rethink. I think Dragon wins at...
Dragon
wins at Jubilee.
Okay.
The Red V at Jubilee.
Yep. Cowboys, Panthers. Panthers take their kids up there.
Yeah.
Cowboys $1.15 to win.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, beware these young Panthers. They're not going up there just to get rolled over, let me tell you.
They'll have a crack, won't they?
They will have a crack. They've done this a couple of times this year through Origin, probably not with as many out, but they will know their stuff and they'll be up there to compete. And if the Cowboys take them lightly, they could get themselves in trouble. I'd like to think that the Cowboys, who are in our top four, And after their performance last week against South Sydney, would like a confidence builder in the last game of the premiership. And I don't know how mentally, they're going to have to steel themselves to ignore what the Panthers have done team-wise and not think about the players that are out, but concentrate on the players that have come in, because there's some real talents in this side. Charlie Stays, Sania Tavia, Thomas Jenkins. These are kids that are just busting to get into the NRL. A lot of them will be playing NRL if they're with other clubs. Sean O'Sullivan's been in good form. Lindsay Smith, Matt Eisenhuth, Chris Smith, plenty of experience there too. Scott Sorensen, Jermaine Hopgood's a really good player. He's off to Parramatta next year. Son Eddie Blacker, Liam Henry, they're from West. Liam Henry and Jack Cole, they're from out west. Blaney and Dubbo, as part of the Western Academy programs out there for the Panthers, and that are producing a lot of kids. And they'll be up there to play, mate. They'll give a good account of themselves. But I'll favour Cowboy to go into the finals with a win.
Bit of a launching pad for some of these youngsters too. A few other clubs might like what they see.
Yeah, well, New South Wales Cup, reserve grade football's out of sight, out of mind now, because we don't play them before the first grade and fans don't get to see them enough. At Panthers, we made a conscious effort to get as many lower grade games on with the NRL as possible, so the fans could see youngsters coming through the system. And I just know there'll be a lot of excitement out there for these kids debuting. They'll be ready to go. Don't worry about that. And they'll give a really good account of themselves. They're not slouches. And there's plenty of NRL players of the future in that side.
2:00 Sunday, Sharkies too good for the night?
You'd have to think so, yes.
4:00 Sunday footy. West Tigers finish the season against the Raiders. And, well, I suppose they could knock them out of the finals.
Yeah, beware. Beware. They can find something. The Tigers should have beaten the Dragons the other day. I've never seen a team. I've seen teams over the years destroy victories. They just found a new way to do it the other day. That was incredible. They've got real talent in a number of those individuals there. I know as a team it hasn't gelled. And it's hard to people to laugh because they're in last position at the moment. But I see great potential in the West Tigers. But you would have to think the game is far too important for the Raiders. Now, the Dragons and Brisbane play Saturday afternoon, so the Raiders will know exactly where they stand, when they play Sunday. Where do they need to win?
They might leave a few out.
Well, they may well rest players too. So gamble responsibly on this. Wait till the final team list. Wait to see what happens with the Dragons-Broncos game before you go, because if the Raiders think that they can get by a little bit cheaply without having to play the whole lot, or Ricky Stewart might like to keep them going, I don't know. They might need a bit of a semi-final type mentality, but they'll get opposition from the Tigers. They'll get a good game, but I'm tipping Raiders to win. So let me go through the whole list here. We've got Storm to beat Eel. We've got Bulldog to beat Seagull. We've got Rooster to beat Rabbit. We've got Warrior to beat Titan. We've got Dragon to beat Bronco. We've got Cowboy to beat Panther. We've got Shark to beat Knight. We've got Raider to beat Tiger.
Okay, there it is.
That's my weekend in sport.
And this time next week, we'll be previewing week 1 of the finals.
Best time of the year.
I reckon this year's gone quick. Some years drag.
Speak for yourself.
This year's gone quick.
I've had about 8 hours sleep.
For me, it's gone quick. For you, it's been going for 34 years. Okay, have a good weekend. I'll see you at some stage.
47th year, actually. 47th
No, I mean,
year.
this year feels like it's gone for 34 years.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but that's the love of it. You got to love the grind. You got to love the battle.
Mm-hmm. We've got I think 7 games this weekend on 9. We've got premiership games. We've got the girls. We've got a New South Wales Cup final.
New South Wales Cup finals. Yep.
I think we might have for Brisbane viewers, we might have a Queensland Cup game, I think.
Yep.
We've got it all covered here on Nine's Wide World of Sports. That's 6 Tackles with Gus for this week. See you next week as we look at week 1 of the finals.
You know the score. Stay in control. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858 or your local state gambling helpline.